You've seen me unclothed, human? Now you must marry me or they'll kill us both. Commander Brennan Blackwood hadn't expected his diplomatic mission to Celestia Prime to involve quite so much hiking through alien terrain. The black armored suit he wore was starting to feel uncomfortably warm under the planet's twin suns, and the plasma rifle slung across his back seemed to grow heavier with each step. Still, as Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the Celestians, he knew the importance of understanding their culture firsthand. The crystalline cliffs surrounding him sparkled with an otherworldly beauty, steam rising from numerous hot springs scattered throughout the rocky landscape. The Celestian guide had mentioned these springs held religious significance to their people, though he'd been frustratingly vague about the details. Cultural sensitivity is paramount, Brennan muttered to himself, recalling the extensive briefing he'd received before departing Earth. The Celestians were known for their strict adherence to ancient traditions and complex social protocols. One wrong move could spark an interplanetary incident. He paused to check his navigation device, wiping sweat from his thick, dark beard. The diplomatic compound should be just beyond the next ridge. As he rounded a bend in the narrow path, the sound of splashing water caught his attention. Steam rose thickly from a secluded pool ahead, partially obscuring his view. Through the mist, he caught a glimpse of pale, white skin and long, dark hair. His brain took a moment to process what he was seeing. Under a female Celestian, completely unclothed, bathing in what he now realized must be one of their sacred springs. Their eyes met across the steam. Her large, dark eyes widened in shock and embarrassment. In one fluid motion, she grabbed a white towel and covered herself, but the damage was already done. "By the ancient laws, you have seen me unclothed," she declared, her voice carrying both authority and alarm. "There are only two paths forward now, marriage or death for us both." Brennan felt his jaw drop. What? Look, this was clearly an accident. I'm sure we can... There are no accidents in matters of honor, she cut him off. Our laws are absolute. You must either become my mate or we both face execution at sunset. That's completely unreasonable, Brennan protested, trying to keep his eyes firmly fixed on her face. I'm a diplomatic representative of Earth. You can't just... A distant horn sounded, echoing off the crystal cliffs. The Celestian woman's expression grew more urgent. "That's the temple guard," she explained quickly. "Someone must have seen you enter this sacred area. We have very little time to decide." Brennan's mind raced. This had to be some kind of cultural misunderstanding, but the fear in her eyes seemed genuine enough. He opened his mouth to argue further, but the sound of approaching footsteps and voices made them both freeze. "Hide," she hissed, gesturing toward a concealed cave entrance behind the spring. "Quickly, I'll try to misdirect them, but you must understand, this situation cannot be undone. Think carefully about your choice, human male. Our lives both depend on it." Brennan crouched in the hidden cave behind the hot spring, his heart pounding as the temple guard's voices grew closer. The steam from the thermal waters provided additional cover, but he knew it wouldn't be enough if they decided to conduct a thorough search. "Lady Astria," a deep voice called out. "Your presence here is unexpected. The sacred springs are reserved for purification rituals at this hour." Brennan's mysterious companion, Astria, apparently, responded with remarkable composure. "Captain Theron, I was not aware of any scheduled rituals. I simply sought solitude for personal meditation. There are reports of an unauthorized human male in this sector," another guard stated suspiciously. "Have you encountered any outsiders?" "How could I?" Astria's voice carried just the right note of indignation. "I've been performing my ablutions. Would a human male dare to intrude upon such a private moment?" Brennan had to admire her quick thinking, even as guilt gnawed at him for being exactly that intruding human male. From his hiding spot, he could see her silhouette through the steam, still wrapped in that white towel. Despite the dire situation, he found his thoughts straying to their earlier encounter. "My lady," Captain Theron's tone softened respectfully. "As daughter of High Counselor Lysander, you should know better than to venture here without an escort. These are uncertain times with so many off-worlders on Celestia Prime." Daughter of a High Counselor. Brennan's diplomatic training kicked in, recognizing the political implications. This situation had just become exponentially more complicated. "I appreciate your concern, Captain," Astria replied, "but I am quite capable of protecting myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must dress and return to the palace." The guards murmured their acknowledgments and withdrew. Brennan waited several tense minutes before Astria appeared at the cave entrance, now wearing an iridescent robe that seemed to capture and reflect the steam's swirling patterns. "We don't have much time," she whispered, extending her hand. "The guards will return once they realize I've left the springs. We must reach the palace before they complete their patrol." Brennan took her offered hand, noting how perfectly it fit within his larger one. "You're the High Counselor's daughter. Why didn't you mention that earlier? Would it have changed your reaction to our predicament?" Her dark eyes met his, challenging and somehow alluring at the same time. "Besides, titles mean little when faced with sacred law. Even my father cannot override traditions that predate our space age." They emerged from the cave, and Astria led him along a narrow path he hadn't noticed before. Her knowledge of the terrain suggested she'd spent considerable time exploring these cliffs. "These laws," Brennan ventured, "they're really that absolute. No exceptions for cultural misunderstandings or diplomatic immunity." Astria's laugh was surprisingly musical. "Our people achieved interstellar travel 3 centuries ago, yet we still arrange marriages based on who sees whom bathing. Does that tell you something about how seriously we take our traditions?" "It tells me your people are full of fascinating contradictions," Brennan replied, finding himself oddly charmed by her directness. "But you still haven't explained why marriage is the only alternative to execution." She paused their climb to face him fully. The twin suns cast an ethereal glow around her form, and Brennan suddenly understood why ancient Celestians might have created laws about witnessing such beauty. "The springs are sacred because they reveal truth," she explained. "When you saw me there, you saw my true self. No pretense, no political mask, nothing but essence. In our culture, that creates an unbreakable bond. To reject such a bond is to reject truth itself, which is punishable by death. And if I accept?" Brennan found himself asking, his voice rougher than intended. Astria stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "Then you accept me as I am, and I accept you as you are. We become bound not just by law, but by choice and truth." The intensity of her gaze made his pulse quicken. This was madness. He was a diplomat, trained to navigate complex political situations, not to marry alien princesses because of archaic customs. Yet something about her drew him in, making him question everything he thought he knew about diplomatic relations. "We should keep moving," Astria said softly, breaking the moment. "The palace has secret passages we can use. Once inside, we can discuss our options more privately." As they resumed their climb, Brennan noticed her occasional glances in his direction. Each look carried weight, as if she were trying to solve a puzzle. He found himself returning those glances, admiring how gracefully she moved despite the treacherous terrain. The palace loomed ahead, its crystal spires reaching toward the twin suns like frozen flames. Brennan knew he should be planning his escape, or at least figuring out how to contact the Earth Embassy. Instead, he found himself contemplating Astria's words about truth and acceptance. "Tell me," he said as they approached a concealed entrance, "if I hadn't stumbled upon you today, what would your future have held?" "An arranged marriage to strengthen political alliances," she answered without hesitation. "My father has been entertaining offers from various noble houses." A mischievous smile played across her lips, "though I doubt any of their candidates would look quite as striking in that armor as you do." Brennan felt heat rise to his face, and not from the exertion of their climb. "Are you flirting with me, Lady Astria?" "I'm merely stating truth, Commander Blackwood. Isn't that what got us into this situation in the first place?" Astria's private chambers in the palace were unlike anything Brennan had ever seen. Crystal walls shifted colors with the changing light of the twin suns, creating an ethereal atmosphere that seemed to exist between reality and dreams. A gentle warmth permeated the space, reminiscent of the sacred springs where their paths had crossed. "The walls are attuned to emotions," Astria explained, noticing his fascination. She had changed into a flowing dress that seemed to capture starlight, making her pale skin glow. "Right now, they're reflecting anticipation." Brennan removed his armored suit's outer layer, feeling more comfortable in the light undergarment. "Anticipation of what exactly?" "Of truth," she replied, moving to a crystalline decanter. "Would you share a drink with me, Commander?" "It's a tradition among my people when discussing matters of the heart." Brennan, he corrected, accepting the iridescent liquid she offered. I think we're well past titles, given the circumstances. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, sending an unexpected thrill through his body. The crystal walls pulsed with a deeper hue. You're right. Brennan? His name on her lips sounded like music. Though I must admit, I find Earth's diplomatic protocols far less exciting than this afternoon's events. He took a sip of the drink, surprised by its pleasant warmth and complex flavors. Is that why you were really at the Springs, avoiding diplomatic tedium? Partially, she admitted, settling onto a cushioned lounger. I was also avoiding Lord Calrian's latest marriage proposal. He's been particularly persistent lately. The same Lord Calrian who's negotiating the new trade agreement? Brennan recalled the stern-faced noble from earlier briefings. The very same. Old enough to be my grandfather, but politically powerful enough that my father can't outright refuse him. She patted the space beside her invitingly. Would you save me from that fate, Brennan? He sat beside her, close enough to catch the subtle fragrance of exotic flowers in her hair. By creating an interplanetary incident instead? By following your heart instead of protocol? Her dark eyes met his with startling intensity. Tell me, what did you truly think when you first saw me at the Springs? The walls shifted to a deep crimson as Brennan considered his answer. I thought you were the most beautiful being I'd ever encountered, he admitted. Then I thought I was about to cause a diplomatic crisis. And now I'm wondering if some diplomatic crises are worth risking. Astria's laugh was like crystal chimes in the wind. You know, in our history, there's a legend about the first human who encountered our people. They say he challenged our strongest warriors to combat, not realizing it was actually a courtship ritual. What happened? He won, of course. Humans have always fascinated us with their ability to turn any situation to their advantage. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to an intimate whisper. We admire that about your species. Your adaptability, your passion, your willingness to embrace the unknown. Brennan felt his pulse quicken as she traced a finger along his beard. Is that what I am to you? The unknown? You're a truth revealed by sacred waters, she murmured. My people believe such revelations are destiny's way of correcting our carefully laid plans. The air between them crackled with unspoken possibilities. Brennan found himself drawn into the depths of her eyes, seeing not just beauty, but a keen intelligence and strength that matched his own. What if I told you, he said carefully, that I'm starting to believe in your sacred traditions? I'd say you're beginning to understand why they've survived so long. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. Our laws about the Springs aren't just about modesty or honor. They're about recognizing moments of perfect clarity when all pretense falls away and souls truly see each other. The walls around them shimmered with patterns Brennan couldn't quite interpret, but their meaning felt clear in his heart. Every diplomatic instinct told him to proceed with caution, to consider the political ramifications. Yet something deeper, more primal urged him to embrace this moment of truth. Astria seemed to sense his internal struggle. Among my people, marriage isn't just a legal union. It's a melding of spirits, a recognition that two beings have found something rare and precious in each other. And if those beings are from different worlds entirely, then perhaps the universe itself conspired to bring them together. She shifted closer, her presence intoxicating. My father always taught me that true diplomacy isn't about following rules, it's about creating new paths forward. Brennan found himself smiling. Is that your diplomatic way of suggesting we create our own path? It's my way of saying that sometimes the heart's protocol supersedes all others. Her free hand came to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat through the thin fabric. Can you feel it? The truth between us? The walls pulsed with colors Brennan had never seen before, as if the very room was holding its breath in anticipation. In that moment, all thoughts of diplomatic consequences and cultural differences faded away. There was only this truth, this connection that defied rational explanation. Their first kiss felt like diving into the sacred springs, a moment of perfect clarity amidst swirling chaos. Astria's lips were soft yet demanding, her touch igniting sensations that transcended physical attraction. It was a meeting of souls, just as her people's traditions had promised. When they finally parted, Both slightly breathless, the crystal walls danced with aurora-like patterns. "I suppose," Brennan said with a gentle smile, "this means I'm officially accepting your marriage proposal." "I suppose it does," Astria replied, her eyes sparkling with joy and desire. "Though on my world, acceptance is just the beginning of a much more intimate journey." The morning light of Celestia Prime's twin suns filtered through the crystal walls of the palace council chamber, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled dignitaries. Brennan stood beside Astria before the High Council, their hands joined in the traditional manner of betrothed couples. The night they had shared had only strengthened his resolve, though he couldn't help but notice the mix of shock and curiosity on the councilors' faces. High Counselor Lysander, Astria's father, sat at the center of the curved crystal dais. His expression remained carefully neutral, but his knuckles had whitened where they gripped his ceremonial staff. "You claim this union was ordained by the sacred springs?" Lysander's voice carried the weight of centuries of tradition. "It was, Father," Astria responded, her voice clear and confident. "Commander Blackwood witnessed my true form, as decreed by ancient law." Lord Calrian, seated to Lysander's right, leaned forward with barely concealed disdain. "And we're to believe this human simply stumbled upon our most sacred site by accident?" "Would you prefer to believe I planned it?" Brennan countered, earning a ripple of murmurs from the assembly. "That I somehow orchestrated an encounter that could have resulted in my execution?" "The human speaks truth," a new voice announced. The crowd parted to reveal an elderly woman in flowing robes, the Spring Oracle, Brennan realized, recognizing her from his diplomatic briefings. "Oracle Neria," Lysander acknowledged, inclining his head respectfully. "You have insights to share?" The Oracle approached Brennan and Astria, her pale eyes seeming to look through them rather than at them. "I have studied the spring waters where their paths crossed. They speak of destiny, not deception." "Destiny?" Lord Calrian scoffed. "Or an excuse to avoid more suitable arrangements?" "Tell me, Lord Calrian." The Oracle turned her unsettling gaze to him. "Do you question the spring's wisdom when it favors your own desires?" Before Calrian could respond, a young aide hurried into the chamber, carrying a crystal tablet. He whispered urgently to one of the medical advisors, whose eyes widened as he reviewed the information. "High Counselor," the medical advisor stood, "we've completed the compatibility analysis between humans and Celestians. The results are unprecedented." Lysander gestured for him to continue. Brennan felt Astria's hand tighten in his. "Not only are our species compatible, but human DNA appears to possess qualities that could strengthen our bloodlines. Their adaptive genetics could help address the fertility issues that have plagued our noble houses for generations." The chamber erupted in excited whispers. Brennan recalled Astria mentioning their species' declining birth rates during their intimate conversations the night before. Furthermore, the advisor continued, the human's particular genetic markers suggest an exceptionally high compatibility with Lady Astria's bloodline. The Oracle smiled knowingly. "The springs choose wisely, do they not?" Lysander raised his hand for silence. "While this information is intriguing, we cannot ignore the political implications. Commander Blackwood is Earth's diplomatic representative. This union could be seen as an attempt to gain undue influence. Or," Brennan spoke up, "it could be seen as the ultimate expression of diplomatic relations. A bridge between our peoples, built on truth and mutual understanding." "Pretty words from a skilled diplomat," Calrian sneered. "But what of our traditions, our customs? Would you have us abandon centuries of protocol for convenience?" "On the contrary," Astria interjected, "we would honor our most sacred tradition, the truth revealed by the springs. Or would you suggest we defy that law, Lord Calrian?" The chamber grew silent as the implications hung in the air. To deny the springs' judgment would undermine the very foundations of their society. Lysander studied them thoughtfully. "Oracle Neria, what do the springs reveal about their future?" The Oracle placed a hand on each of their shoulders. Her touch sent a strange, tingling sensation through Brennan's body. "I see life," she announced. "New life, born of their union. A merging of strengths that will chart a new course for both our peoples." Brennan felt heat rise to his face, remembering the passion they had shared. Astria's pale skin flushed slightly, the crystal walls around them pulsing with deep, warm colors. The springs have spoken, Lysander finally declared, and now science confirms their wisdom. We would be fools to ignore such clear signs. He stood addressing the full council. I propose we recognize this union, not just as a marriage, but as a symbol of a new era in Celestian human relations. The vote that followed was largely ceremonial. Even Lord Calrian, though clearly displeased, couldn't openly oppose both the Spring's judgment and the Oracle's blessing. As the council dispersed, Lysander approached them privately. "Daughter," he said softly, "when I sent you to the Springs for your purification ritual, I never imagined—" He paused, looking at Brennan with new consideration. "Perhaps I should have. You've always had a way of finding unexpected paths." "Thank you, Father," Astria embraced him, "for understanding." "Understanding? No, I'm still far from that," Lysander chuckled. "But I trust in the Spring's wisdom, and in you." He turned to Brennan. "Welcome to our family, Commander. I trust you'll continue to surprise us." The weeks following the High Council's approval were a whirlwind of preparation and discovery. Brennan found himself immersed in Celestian wedding traditions while trying to incorporate elements of Earth customs into their upcoming ceremony. However, it was the unexpected revelations about their biological compatibility that truly captured their attention. "It's remarkable, Doctor," Ilara, the chief medical researcher, explained as she reviewed the latest scans. "The human genetic structure actually enhances our own natural regenerative abilities. It's as if your DNA was designed to complement ours." Astria sat beside Brennan in the medical chamber, her hand resting possessively on his arm. The intimacy they'd shared had only grown stronger, their bodies seeming to recognize what science was now confirming. They were made for each other. "And the compatibility extends beyond mere genetics," Dr. Ilara continued, her eyes bright with excitement. "Your biochemistry, your neural patterns, they align in ways we've never seen before. It's almost as if the Springs knew exactly what they were doing," Astria finished, shooting Brennan a knowing smile. Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Lord Calrian was holding a clandestine meeting with several minor nobles. "This human influence must be contained," he insisted, unaware that Oracle Neria's surveillance crystals were recording every word. "Our traditions are being corrupted by their barbaric ways." But even Calrian's scheming couldn't dampen the joy of the preparations. The palace buzzed with activity as the artisans crafted ceremonial attire that blended both cultures' styles. Brennan's traditional black armor was being inlaid with Celestian crystals, while Astria's gown would incorporate both earth silk and local luminescent fibers. "You know," Brennan murmured one evening as they walked to Amafrani through the palace gardens, "on Earth, couples usually date for months or years before marriage." "Are you having second thoughts?" Astria teased, though he caught a hint of genuine concern in her voice. "Quite the opposite." He pulled her close, breathing in her exotic scent. "I'm thinking how lucky I am that your traditions didn't give me time to overthink this. Sometimes the heart knows better than the head." Their lips met in a passionate kiss, the garden's bioluminescent flowers pulsing in response to their emotions. When they finally parted, Astria's eyes held a mischievous glint. "Speaking of traditions," she said, "there's one we haven't discussed yet, the ritual of physical unity." Brennan raised an eyebrow. "That sounds intriguing." "It's an ancient custom," she explained, trailing her fingers along his chest. "Couples must prove their physical compatibility before the ceremony. Usually it's just a formality, but in our case, well, we've already proven quite compatible," she whispered, her breath hot against his ear. "But the ritual requires official documentation of successful joining." Brennan felt heat rise to his face. "You mean, we need to register intimate encounters with the medical council," she confirmed, clearly enjoying his reaction. "For scientific purposes, of course." Before Brennan could respond, a palace guard approached urgently. "Commander, Lady Astria, the Oracle requests your immediate presence." They found Neria in her chambers, surrounded by glowing crystals. "Lord Calrian moves against you," she announced without preamble. "He plans to challenge the validity of your union based on an ancient subsection of spring law." "What subsection?" Astria demanded. "One requiring proof of complete physical compatibility before marriage?" Neria's eyes twinkled. "He believes you will fail this requirement, given your different species." Brennan and Astria exchanged knowing looks. Their nights together had already proven Kellyanne wrong, but now they had official motivation to document their compatibility. The medical council stands ready, Neria continued, barely concealing her amusement. They've prepared special monitoring chambers for your ritual observations. Later that night, in their private chambers, Brennan held Astria close. So we have to prove our physical compatibility to thwart Kellyanne's plans? She agreed, her fingers tracing patterns on his skin. Multiple times, I believe, for thoroughness. And this will be officially documented? Every moment, she confirmed, though they're primarily interested in biological readings, not visual recordings. Brennan laughed softly. You know, on Earth, this would be considered highly unusual. Are you uncomfortable with it? No, he realized. Maybe I'm becoming more Celestian than I thought. Or maybe... He kissed her deeply. Maybe I just can't resist any excuse to be close to you. Their passion that night was both tender and fierce, their bodies moving together with an intensity that sent the crystal walls pulsing with unprecedented patterns. The medical readings would later show perfect synchronization of their biological rhythms, their very cells seeming to dance in harmony. The medical council's chamber buzzed with unprecedented excitement as Dr. Alara presented her findings to the assembled dignitaries. The data from Brennan and Astria's compatibility trials had led to an astonishing discovery in the ancient archives. These markings, Dr. Alara highlighted holographic symbols floating above the central crystal table, appear in our oldest texts. We always assumed they represented theoretical evolutionary paths, but now, she overlaid them with Brennan's DNA structure. The patterns aligned perfectly. High Counselor Lysander leaned forward, his expression intense. Are you suggesting what I think you are? Yes, Dr. Alara confirmed. Humans and Celestians share an ancient connection. The Sacred Springs didn't just choose Commander Blackwood by chance. They recognized something our ancestors knew millennia ago. Brennan felt Astria's hand tighten in his. They'd arrived at the presentation still flushed from their morning together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Now learning about this ancient connection, everything felt even more meaningful. There's more, Doctor, Alara continued. Lady Astria's latest medical scans show, well, perhaps you should tell them. All eyes turned to the couple. Astria stood, her pale skin glowing with an inner light Brennan had come to associate with her happiest moments. I'm carrying our child, she announced. The first time a human Celestian hybrid in recorded history. The chamber erupted in exclamations of surprise and wonder. Through the commotion, Brennan noticed Lord Calrian slip quietly from the room, his face dark with fury. Oracle Neria approached them, her ancient eyes shining. The Springs foresaw this, a new beginning for both our peoples. She placed her hands on Astria's abdomen, closing her eyes in concentration. The child carries the strength of Earth and the magic of Celestia, a perfect union. Later that evening, as Brennan and Astria celebrated privately in their chambers, an urgent message arrived from one of Neria's acolytes. Lord Calrian had been caught attempting to access the forbidden archives beneath the Sacred Springs. He sought ancient rituals of separation, Neria explained when they rushed to the scene. Dark magic that could have torn you apart at the cellular level. Brennan held Astria protectively, his hand resting over their growing child. I thought such practices were forbidden. They are, Lysander's voice boomed as he entered the archive chamber. And the penalty is the same as that which you once faced, death. Calrian, restrained by temple guards, laughed bitterly. You would execute me for trying to preserve our pure bloodlines? Look at what this human has done. He's corrupted our most sacred traditions. No, Astria stepped forward, her voice strong. He's fulfilled them. Our ancestors knew of this possibility. They wrote it in our very DNA. The Springs didn't just save our lives that day. They awakened something ancient and powerful. The compatibility trials proved it beyond doubt, Dr. Alara added, joining them with her crystal tablet. Their union has activated dormant genetic sequences in both their bodies. The child they've created carries abilities we've only theorized about. Brennan felt a surge of pride and protectiveness. His diplomatic mission had evolved into something far more significant than anyone could have imagined. He wasn't just building bridges between worlds. He was helping to reunite two branches of an ancient evolutionary tree. Take him to the detention crystals, Lysander ordered. As the guards led Calrian away, he turned to Brennan and Astria. Perhaps now we can focus on more joyous matters. The wedding ceremony must be expanded to acknowledge these revelations." "And the child?" Astria asked, her hand protectively over her abdomen. "Will be celebrated as the first of a new era," Oracle Neria declared. "The springs have blessed this union in ways we're only beginning to understand." That night, as they lay entwined in their chamber, the crystal walls pulsing with the confined rhythms of their hearts, Brennan marveled at how much had changed since that fateful encounter at the springs. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly, his hand caressing the slight swell of Astria's belly. "Being seen that day?" She turned to face him, her dark eyes reflecting the crystal's glow. "How could I regret something that was written in the stars? In our very DNA?" She kissed him deeply, her body molding to his with familiar passion. "Besides, you've more than proved yourself worthy of that first glimpse." Their laughter turned to sighs of pleasure as they celebrated their union once again, their bodies moving together with the practiced ease of true soulmates. The crystal walls sang with their joy, their love creating new patterns of light that hadn't been seen in millennia. As the twin suns cast their evening glow across Celestia Prime's crystalline spires, Brennan found himself facing an unexpected challenge, learning the intricate steps of the traditional Celestian bonding dance. His military training had prepared him for combat, not the flowing movements that seemed to defy gravity. "You're thinking too much," Astria laughed, her growing belly doing nothing to diminish her natural grace. "Feel the rhythm in your blood. It's the same energy that flows between us when we're alone." The reminder of their intimate moments brought heat to his cheeks, but it also helped him understand. Soon his movements began matching hers, their bodies moving in harmony just as they did in their private chambers. "Now you're getting it," she purred, pressing closer than the traditional form strictly required. "Though I prefer our private dances." Meanwhile, in the lower levels of the palace, Lord Calrian's supporters were meeting in secret. "The human has corrupted not just our bloodlines, but our very traditions," Lady Mira, Calrian's chief conspirator, declared. "The child they create could destroy everything we hold sacred, or fulfill prophecies older than our recorded history," a new voice interrupted. Oracle Neria stepped from the shadows, her ancient eyes gleaming. "Did you really think your little gatherings would go unnoticed?" Back in the palace's main hall, the wedding preparations continued. Dr. Ilera had insisted on regular examinations of both Astria and the developing child, whose unique genetic makeup was providing new insights daily. "The fetal development is remarkable," she explained during one session. "The human DNA isn't just combining with Celestian genes. It's enhancing them. Your child will have strengths neither of our species has seen before." Brennan watched the holographic display of their baby with wonder. "Is that why the morning sickness has been so intense?" Astria squeezed his hand. "Worth every moment," she assured him, "though I do enjoy how attentive you've become to my every need." Their eyes met with heated understanding, both remembering how his attentiveness had led to particularly passionate encounters. The crystal walls pulsed with their shared desire, prompting Dr. Ilera to tactfully excuse herself. The wedding ceremony itself was planned for the next full alignment of the twin suns, a rare event that occurred only once every few years. The timing seemed perfect until Oracle Neria's warning reached them. Calrian supporters planned to strike during the ceremony, she informed them in the privacy of their chambers. They believe the ancient laws will protect them if they act during a sacred ritual. "They're wrong," Astria's father stated, joining them unexpectedly. "The laws are clear. Any who threaten the union, blessed by the springs, face immediate execution. No exceptions." Brennan pulled Astria closer, protective of both her and their unborn child. "We won't let them destroy what we've built." "No," she agreed, her hand resting over their growing child. "We'll face them together, as we've faced everything else." That night, as they lay entwined in their bed, their passion was tinged with an edge of desperation. So each touch, each kiss carried the weight of their shared concerns and their determination to protect their future. "I never imagined," Brennan murmured against her skin, "that seeing you in those springs would lead to all this." "Regrets?" she teased, though he heard the slight uncertainty in her voice. His response was passionate and thorough, leaving no doubt about his feelings. The crystal walls blazed with the intensity of their connection, their bodies moving together in perfect harmony until they both cried out in ecstasy. Afterward, as they caught their breath, Astria suddenly gasped. "The baby, it moved!" Brennan placed his hand on her belly, feeling the subtle flutter of their child. The moment was magical, making their enemies' threats seem distant and insignificant. "Let them try to stop us," he declared. "They don't understand what they're facing." "No," she agreed, her eyes shining with love and determination. They have never seen the strength of a human's love or how far a Celestian will go to protect their chosen mate. The next morning brought news that validated their resolve. Oracle Naria's agents had uncovered Lady Mira's detailed plans for disrupting the ceremony. The conspirators had underestimated both the Oracle's influence and the loyalty she commanded. "They forget," Neria told the assembled council, "that the Spring's wisdom extends far beyond mere matchmaking. They show us truth in all its forms, including the truth of betrayal." The following days saw a flurry of arrests, each conspirator's capture strengthening the legitimacy of Brennan and Astria's union. Their love had exposed not just ancient connections between their species, but also the corruption hiding within Celestian society. The day of the twin suns' alignment arrived with unexpected complications. Astria's pregnancy, progressing faster than either human or Celestian norms, had reached a critical phase. The medical chambers buzzed with activity as Dr. Ilara monitored the rapidly changing readings. "The child's development is extraordinary," she announced, studying the holographic displays. "The combination of human adaptability and Celestian energy manipulation is creating something unprecedented." Brennan paced anxiously, his wedding attire half donned. "Is she in danger?" "We're both fine," Astria assured him from the medical bed, though her pale skin seemed to glow with an unusual intensity. "The baby is just eager to witness our union." The crystal walls pulsed with erratic patterns, reflecting the unique energy signatures emanating from their unborn child. Dr. Alera's instruments recorded everything, documenting the first human Celestian hybrid's development for future generations. Meanwhile, in the temple preparation chambers, Oracle Neria received urgent news. The remaining conspirators, led by Lady Mira's younger brother, had stolen ancient artifacts from the Forbidden Archives. Artifacts rumored to have the power to sever bonds blessed by the Springs. "They don't understand what they're dealing with," Nyria warned High Counselor Lysander. "Those artifacts were sealed away because they're too dangerous to control." The wedding ceremony was scheduled for high noon, when the twin suns would align perfectly above the sacred springs where Brennan and Astria first met. But as the hour approached, Astria's condition became more intense. "And the baby's energy is synchronizing with the sun's alignment," Dr. Alera explained, her voice mixing concern with fascination. "It's as if our child knows exactly when to make an entrance," Astria finished, managing a smile through her discomfort. She reached for Brennan's hand. "We need to proceed with the ceremony, now." "But the traditional timing," an aide protested. "To hell with tradition," Brennan declared, his diplomatic polish giving way to raw emotion. "We're already breaking new ground. Let's do this our way." The announcement that the ceremony would begin early sent the conspirators scrambling to adjust their plans. Their haste made them careless, allowing Neria's agents to track their movements through the palace's crystal network. As Brennan and Astria exchanged their vows in the temple chamber, her labor intensified. The traditional words merged with gasps of pain and determination, creating a ceremony unlike any in Celestian history. "I saw you in truth," Brennan recited, supporting his bride as another contraction hit, "and chose to bind my soul to yours." "I offered you life," Astria responded, her voice strong despite her pain, "and found my destiny in your eyes." The moment they sealed their vows with a kiss, the conspirators struck. Ancient artifacts hummed with dark energy as they attempted to sever the couple's bond. But they hadn't counted on one crucial factor: the strength of human determination combined with Celestian passion. The artifact's energy backfired, unable to break a connection that transcended their ancient magic. In the chaos that followed, Astria's water broke, and the true miracle began. Their son was born as the twin suns reached perfect alignment, his first cry harmonizing with the crystal song. His skin held the pale luminescence of his mother's people, while his eyes sparked with his father's intensity. They named him Lyrian, honoring both his grandfather Lysander and the lyrical prophecies that had foretold his coming. "He's perfect," Brennan whispered, holding his son while sitting beside his exhausted but radiant wife. The conspirators had been apprehended, their artifacts safely sealed away, but none of that seemed to matter in this moment. "Of course he is," Astria murmured, touching their baby's cheek. "He's what the Springs saw that day, the future they knew we could create together." Dr. Alara's readings confirmed what they could all sense. Lyrian possessed unique abilities, his hybrid nature allowing him to channel both human adaptability and Celestian energy manipulation in ways never before seen. "He'll need both of you," Oracle Neria declared, blessing the child. Human strength and Celestian wisdom united in perfect balance. That night, as their son slept peacefully in his crystal cradle, Brennan and Astria found themselves drawn to each other with renewed passion. Their lovemaking was gentle but intense, celebrating not just their official union, but the miracle they'd created together. "I never thought," Brennan murmured against his wife's skin, "that accidentally seeing you in those springs would lead to all this." "The springs don't make accidents," she replied, pulling him closer. "They reveal destinies." 1 year after Lyrian's birth, the sacred springs had become a symbol of hope for both humans and Celestians. Where once strict traditions had kept the species apart, now couples from both worlds sought the springs' blessing. Inspired by Brennan and Astria's love story, the Crystal Palace had adapted to accommodate the growing number of interspecies couples, with new wings dedicated to cultural exchange and compatibility research. Dr. Alara's findings about human Celestian genetics had revolutionized both societies' understanding of their shared ancestry. "It's remarkable," Brennan observed one evening, watching from their private balcony as another human Celestian couple emerged from the springs, their faces glowing with newfound love. "A year ago, they would have been executed for such an encounter." "And now they're celebrated," Astria replied, cradling Lyrian against her chest. Their son's unique features had become the template for a new kind of beauty, one that transcended species boundaries. The diplomatic protocols that had once seemed so rigid had evolved into more flexible guidelines, allowing for the natural progression of relationships between the two species. Brennan, now serving as both Earth's ambassador and a member of the Celestian High Council, had helped craft these new approaches. "Remember how nervous you were that first day?" Astria teased, setting Lyrian in his crystal cradle. The mighty Earth diplomat, faced with an unclothed alien and an impossible choice. "As I recall," Brennan pulled her close, his hands tracing familiar paths along her body, "you were pretty insistent about the marriage part." Their passion had only grown stronger over the months, each intimate encounter deepening their bond. The crystal wall still pulsed with their energy when they made love, though they'd learned to moderate the display to avoid overwhelming the palace's sensitive monitoring systems. High Counselor Lysander had fully embraced his role as grandfather, often found in the palace gardens teaching Lyrian about Celestian energy manipulation while sharing stories of Earth's history. The boy's ability to bridge both cultures had become a source of pride for both societies. "Another delegation arrives tomorrow," Astria mentioned, her fingers playing with Brennan's beard. 3 human Celestian couples seeking official recognition of their bonds. And Oracle Neria's visions? All positive. She says the springs have never been more active, as if they're eager to bless these new unions. Their own union had set a precedent that transformed both worlds' understanding of love and compatibility. The Medical Council had documented dozens of successful human Celestian pregnancies, each child displaying unique combinations of both species' strengths. That evening, as they prepared for bed, Brennan caught Astria admiring herself in the crystal mirrors. Her beauty had only increased since giving birth, her pale skin now carrying a permanent subtle glow that intensified with her emotions. "Thinking about that day at the springs?" he asked, embracing her from behind. "Thinking about how glad I am you didn't run away screaming when I mentioned marriage." She turned in his arms, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief. "Though I suppose the death threat was a powerful motivator. The most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, threatening to have me executed if I didn't marry her." Brennan laughed softly. "How could I resist?" Their kiss deepened, passion flaring between them as it had countless times before. The crystal walls hummed with their energy, their bodies moving together in perfect harmony. Their lovemaking was both tender and fierce, a celebration of everything they'd built together. Later, as they lay entwined in the afterglow, Lyrian's soft cooing drew their attention. Their son stood in his cradle, tiny hands creating patterns of light that danced across the ceiling. "He's getting stronger," Astria observed proudly. Dr. Alara says his ability to manipulate energy already exceeds most adult Celestians. While showing the same adaptability that helped humanity reach the stars, Brennan added, "He truly is the best of both worlds." The next morning brought news that would cement their legacy. The Earth government, in conjunction with the Celestian High Council, had approved the establishment of a new colony world specifically for human Celestian couples and their children. They wanted Brennan and Astria to oversee its development. "A whole world," Astria breathed, reading the proposal, "where couples like us can build their lives without judgment or ancient restrictions. Where our son can grow up surrounded by others like him," Brennan agreed. "Though we'll need to establish some basic rules about proper spring etiquette." Her laughter filled their chambers, bright and joyous. Perhaps a simple knock-first policy would suffice? As they stood together on their balcony, watching the twin suns rise over their future, Brennan reflected on how a single moment of accidental voyeurism had changed not just their lives but the course of two civilizations. Their love had proven stronger than tradition, their passion more powerful than prejudice. "No regrets?" he asked softly, holding his family close. "Only that we didn't start sooner," Astria replied, kissing him deeply as their son created tiny supernovas of light between his fingers.